18 degrees, blue sky, brilliant sunshine. Is there really any other options for me on the last day of my annual leave than to go and wet a line and see if I can catch a trout in a small stream? Rightio folks, as stated, it is a glorious day, but yesterday was a much different story. Yesterday there was widespread significant rainfall right across the region, which has left many of the streams high and dirty. I've just been and dipped my fingers in a couple of other streams down the valley. They were both filthy dirty and flowing very hard, and I did not get a single bite in either of those streams. So I've come up here to Old Faithful. This is a stream that you've seen quite a few times on my YouTube channel. This is the stream that I was fishing with my wife and kids last week when I caught that weeny little rainbow trout, and if it wasn't for that little trout we would have had a fishless trip. That was a trip saver. I'll put the link above now to that video. Check it out if you haven't already watched it. Stacks of fun with my wife and kids. Anyway, today I've come back to that stream. I'm going to dig a few scrubworms, fish that same hole that I fished with my wife and kids, as well as a few other holes in the system, and see if I can catch a few trout. This creek isn't nearly as dirty as some of the other streams in the region. It's high, it's off colour, but it's still quite clear, and I think it looks quite fishable. Let's hope the fish think so too. Righty, I'm a little bit puffed. In a bait fishing video I made recently, I mentioned that there's two different sorts of worms. Those that you get near the waterway you're fishing, and those that you get elsewhere. Now today I'm digging right next to the creek here. You can probably hear the water trickling in the background. I'm digging for scrubworms. Now these worms are the ones that you get right next to the waterway that you're fishing. There's a little one. Now have a look at these. Look at the size of that. That's a true scrubworm. They are huge. People love these things. I find them really good in this situation where I've dug them next to the waterway. There's a cockchafer. You've seen me catch trout on cockchafers before. He's quite a big cockchafer, that one. I might not use him, but I'll put him in there just in case I run out of worms. Rightio, now that's where I just dug my worms. I've got a few here now. I've got a few scrubbies and a couple of cockchafers in case I run out of worms. Haven't got a huge amount, but I've got enough. If I run out of worms, that means that I've had a pretty good run. Now, one thing that is imperative when you're digging worms, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in the bush, in someone's farm, wherever, it doesn't matter. You should always clean up your mess. You'll see I've dug here, I've filled it all in, walked over to smooth it down a little bit. The first bit of rain will dilute that mud and the grass will come through and nobody will ever know I've dug there. It's always important to clean up your mess. Otherwise, if you don't, you can expect no entry signs next time you come. Oh, there's a nibble, there's a nibble. Got him. Huh. Oh wow, small. Oops. There buddy, not even going to have to touch this one. There he goes. There was a little rainbow trout caught on a scrubworm that I dug just up there. Got him. Oh, I lost him. Another tiny little rainbow. Let's have a nibble. Yep, got him. Tiny, weeny little rainbow trout. Have a look at that. Wow. Weeny little trout. There you go, buddy. I'm cooking lunch on my trangia. I'll stop for a bite to eat. What a lovely spot. This particular creek looks really good, but it's got no fish in it. It actually dries up each year in the summer months. It looks great now, but it dries in summer. But it's a nice little spot by a roadside that I can stop, have a bite to eat, and then keep fishing. Right, now while I'm waiting for the water to boil, let's have a quick update. I've got out and I've dug those magnificent scrubbies. I hooked that first fish and pretty much caught it. It fell off at my feet. I then caught another little one, both little rainbows. Now I'm stopping for a bite to eat. Now I'm going to step it up a notch. After lunch, even though the creek's a bit higher and waiting's going to be a bit more awkward, I'm going to go down there to a spot, get in, walk up through the water and drift through some pools and see if I can pick up a bigger fish and see if I can actually catch my first brown trout for the season. I haven't seen one yet this season. Rightio, with a couple of packets of noodles under my belt, it's time to get in the water. And that water is very, very cold. Somebody asked me the other day how fast I retrieve my worms when I'm drifting worms through a pool. I try and keep the worms moving at the same speed as the current. Now, because I'm using a little split shot sinker here to aid with my casting, I need to actually retrieve it slowly and not just rely on the current to wash it down naturally. If I wasn't using the sinker, I could probably rely on the current to move the worm naturally. Because I've got a sinker, I need to just slowly turn the reel just so that the worm's moving at roughly the same speed as the current. Got him. Yes. I could feel a bit of a tap as I was retrieving that back in then. I'm getting a little bit, he got off. I was just about to say we're getting a little bit bigger here, but he done the Herald halt. He done the bolt. Off he went. Alright. I've still sort of got me scrubby. I'll keep him on there and I'll keep moving upstream. That was the biggest one today. Possibly my second biggest so far this season, which is less than a week old. Well, look at this spot up here. I've got good news and bad news. Well, good news and bad news for me anyway. The good news is there's a really nice bit of water there. The bad news is that I have to get down on my hands and knees and crawl under that log in the water. And it's about 10 degrees and the water's probably about 6. Rightio, I'll take my worms out of my pocket. Yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. It's when you know you're alive. Wow, you've seen me climb under that log before on this channel, but maybe not when it's like this cold. Oh. Isn't it? Got him. Yes. Let's see if I can land this one. Just drifting that scrub worm. Is it my first brown for the season? It is too. Finally a little brownie. Right. Finally, very fat little brown. Look at that fat he is. I bet you he has been gorging on these scrub worms after all this rain we've been getting. What a little ripper. Look how fat he is. See you later, fatty. Off he goes. Now you'll notice I'll wet my hand before I held that fish. I used to say it all the time, I'll just wet my hand, and someone went crook at me for saying it all the time, but in case you haven't seen me explain this before, I'll just explain why I wet my hand. That fish's protective slime, it's like its immune system. That's why fish are slimy. We have an inbuilt immune system, they have slime around them. If our hand's dry, we're more likely to damage the slime. It doesn't mean we're going to, It just means that we're more likely to damage the slime. If we damage that slime and then that fish touches some kind of a bug, it's more likely to pick up the bug. So by wetting our hand, it just helps us ensure that we protect the slime that protects the fish. If we don't wet our hand, or we can't wet our hand because we're on a high bank or a cliff, that's not the end of the world. But where possible, I always like to wet my hand just to protect that bit of slime. Finally caught my first brown trout for the season. Happy now. Going home happy. Not a very warm day today. It's certainly not warm when you've been walking in the water. I'm about to walk in a whole lot more because I've got to somehow get through all this. And then I'm on the move. A little pool like this, I'll just make 3 or 4 casts. The water's clear enough that the fish will at least see it if they can't smell it. If nothing shows up in 3 or 4 casts, I'll move on. Try and cover as much water as I can. Oh yeah, this is another one of those holes that's got good news and bad news. The good news is there's a beautiful hole just here. The bad news is that it's very deep and it's going to be over my waist and I'm going to have to get my nuts wet and it's not going to be comfortable. But I am so sure that I'm going to catch a trout in this hole that I've already got my camera out, sitting on the bag there, ready to go. Got him. Yeah, baby. Oh, he's wrapped me around all the blackberries. Oh, now I'm wrapped around that rod, that tree. Right, we're free. Gee, I'm glad I got the camera out. Oh dear. It's only a small fish. But it is a fish, and I wouldn't mind getting a photo. I don't get a lot of photos these days. I tend to get the video footage and release the fish and get very few photos. But young rainbows are such a pretty fish. This one is no exception. Whoops, what did I just take a photo of? What lovely colours you have. Goodbye, my friend. Straight into me foot. This is just crazy. I've had to take my backpack off because it's too deep. Oh, my nuts are wet. Oh, it's up to my belly button. It's like what is it, the 6th of September or the 7th of September or something. Wow. I wonder if I could have just gone around that way. I thought I had to jump into 2 feet of water, which would have made me just as wet. Rightio. I might give this this cockchafer a bit of a swim. I love these things. I think I love them more because they allow me to say a really nasty swear word without actually swearing. Cockchafer grubs. Got him. Oh, had a nice bite on the cockchafer. Here he goes. Oh, I missed him. Oh, and he took off with me cockchafer. Look at that, I had a nice bite on the cockchafer and he took off with it. Now those cockchafer grubs, a lot of people call them witchetty grubs. If anybody ever tells you they're not good trout bait, don't listen to them, because I have caught stacks of trout on them. I almost caught another one just now. Right, now that I've just had my my near cockchafer experience, it's time to put a worm back on. There's lots of different ways to do this. Some people like to thread it up the hook so the whole hook is buried in the worm. I like to rig a scrub worm like a bunch of worms. I've gone through it 3 times. I've just gone through it 4 times, something like that. I like to have a bit of a tail that can wiggle around, and then have half the worm bunched up on the hook and the other half with a tail. That's how I like to use a scrub worm. Now the hook that I'm using is a size 8 Conan hook. The only reason I know that it's size 8 is because I deliberately had a look for you guys, because people always ask me what size hook I use. That's a size 8 Conan hook, and the split shot that I'm using is size AAA. 1 AAA split shot, 4 pound Maxima Ultra Green line, a size 8 Conan hook with a scrub worm rig like that. That's how I'm doing it today. Have a look at this big tree, would ya? I thought there was only 2 of these in this spot. Apparently there's 3, and this one's the hardest. This is not going to be pleasant. Oh my God, Father. I'm practically swimming. Oh, there's a nice hole this side. That wasn't too bad. Got him. Just doing that drifting technique that I spoke about earlier, when I was reel the worm in at the same speed as the current. Here's a very fat little rainbow. Have a look at that. Gone. Just about to grab him and he flicked off the hook. But that doesn't bother me. I caught that fish just using the technique I spoke about earlier, where I just retrieve the worm at the same speed as the current to keep it looking natural. Rightio folks, well that's it from me. I've had a wonderful day. I stood in this very same spot earlier in the week and filmed my closing scene when I was up here fishing with my family, my fam bam. The difference then is that I was hole hopping from hole to hole. Today I've actually done the hard yards. Haven't got the kids with me, I'm on my own. I've got in and I've walked a significant length of this creek, which is very overgrown, very cold. So I've worked hard, but I've caught a few fish. I had a good outcome. I've loaded this video with heaps of tips and tricks on how to catch trout by drifting worms, and I hope you find it very useful and helpful. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you did. Hit the subscribe button underneath, and next to that there's a little bell icon. If you click on that, that'll ensure that you get a notification each time I upload a new video.